everyone who is here this afternoon. And for those of you who are joining us online, I want to welcome you also. Today, we'll be sharing the background information and the rationale for the proposed range of a tuition increase. Following the tuition and fee presentation, we will have 6 individuals, I guess somebody over there, you all will be called on shortly, to be asked to speak before this group. Each of you will be given 5 minutes to speak in the individual time slots. We will receive public comment only on the proposed tuition and fees, and only from those who signed up to provide such comments. Comments on other subjects should be directed to the Board of Visitors through an email address, which I'll give to you shortly. Anyone who speaks on matters other than the tuition and fees will be given a warning and provided an opportunity to finish their comments on the tuitions and fees. If they continue to speak on topics other than tuition, they will be removed from the meeting. In addition to these time slots, individuals are also able to share their comments by completing the Quality survey link listed on the JMU homepage, or send an email to the BOV secretary at jmu.edu email, or rector@jmu.edu email. All of these comments will be shared with the full board when we are together. I'd now like to turn it over to Dewana Moore, Vice President of Administration and Finance, for her presentation.
Thank you. There we go. This is our mission statement. We are a community committed to preparing students to be educated and enlightened citizens who lead productive and meaningful lives. And I think by the time my presentation is over, you'll see that we do just that. This has been our mission statement for quite some time, and we're very committed to it. So let's take a look at where we are by the numbers right now. We have some metrics that we use to kind of judge where we are. Our first year undergraduate retention rate is 91.9%. That is the highest rate that we've had since 2013, and goes to show that some of the programs that we put into place to work on our retention rates are working. Our 6-year graduation rate is 80%. Our student to faculty ratio is 17:1, and our student satisfaction rate is 96%. So then we take a look at some of the national profiles and folks are saying about us outside of the campus. You'll see here our national profile continues to rise because we are now an R2 classification. The U.S. News and World Report ranked us number 78 in the top public school category. We are listed by Time as in the top 125, and we're ranked number 10 best college campuses in America, according to Niche magazine. What I would call to your attention, and what I'm most proud of, is the lavender box, which are metrics that we have here on campus from our Career Center. And when we surveyed members of the class of 2023, 93% of the students who responded said that within 6 months, they were either going to graduate school, they had a job, or they were going into the military. So we are preparing people to move on and to carry on their lives, just like we are stating what we hoped. So where does the university revenue come from? There's basically 4 different components to the university budget. There's tuition and fees. There's general funds, which is support from the Commonwealth. There's auxiliary enterprises, which are self-supporting areas, which I'll explain a little bit more a little bit later, and then sponsor programs. And most of what we'll concentrate on today is on the general funds, tuition and fees, and the auxiliary enterprises. And you see the different percentages there that generate them. The largest being tuition and fees, general funds, auxiliary, on down. So where are university dollars expended? This is a chart that I think is very important if you're in a higher ed environment, because you want, if your mission statement is to educate students, you want the majority of your money to be spent educating students. And that's exactly what happens here. 52%, 52.5% of the funds that are expended are in the education and general department. And when I say education in general, sometimes you'll hear me refer to it as E&G. That is the side of the house where all of the education happens, where faculty are in the classrooms, libraries, advising, all of those things that are encompassed upon educating students. The auxiliary side are self-supporting things that receive no money from the Commonwealth. Those are things like residence life, parking, services like that. So you see financial assistance and scholarships is 6.6, and then sponsored programs, this is where the grants come through, is 7.5. Now of this, when you see, if you look up here on the education in general, on that purple part of that pie chart, you'll see that it drills down even further. Of that amount, of that to 52.5%, 66.9% of that money goes specifically for instruction and academics. So that's exactly what you would want to see in higher ed. So let's take a look. This is the history of the funding from the Commonwealth over time. I got here in 1999, and you see that the pie chart to the far left, it was about 50-50. The tuition supported half of it, and the Commonwealth supported the other half. And then as you move on later, starting like in 2008, we had a recession. A lot of things happened with the economy, and the Commonwealth wasn't able to fund us as much as they had in the past, and we became more reliant on tuition and fees. So you see that purple section of the pie graph got bigger. And then here's the section from 2025. In the last several years, the Commonwealth has made a concerted effort to help us in our general fund support. And so it's the silver part is increasing. And we're very appreciative of that they support us like they do. So this is the E&G budget. And this is expenditures, and this includes financial aid. And I want to call your attention to a couple of things about this. Again, I'm talking the E&G, the educational side of the university. If you look, 74.2% of that budget is actually personnel. So this purple box is instructional faculty, then the gold is AP faculty staff, the green is benefits, and the orange is GAs and wage dollars. So of all that E&G budget, 74.2% of it is people, because we're a residential campus. We have people that are here. You're in the classrooms learning. And then this red portion is the portion that's all the money that they have to operate, to do the things that they need to do, to buy computers and software and supplies and travel and all that. And if you remove financial aid, which is the blue box at the top, they really only have 15% of their budget that they're using to operate. And I think it shows exactly how efficient we are, because that's not an overabundance of money, and it's a really low percentage. So then this chart shows, this is general fund support from the Commonwealth. Then this is per FTE student. FTE stands for full-time equivalent. So there's two colors on here. The dark purple is the actual support from the Commonwealth, from Virginia. And then the lavender part is financial aid that they provide for us. And I want you to notice the two bullets, but also the pie graph. This is all of the 15 institutions. And if you'll notice, JMU is dead last in terms of how much funding we receive per FTE student. We receive the least amount of funding of any institution in the state. If you look at these bullets, I bring these up because I would be thrilled if they would just fund us to the average of the 15. So you see here, JMU receives $3,089 less per in-state student than the average of the 15 four-year publics. So our funding is low. So I think that's something you need to remember. And if you look at this chart, this shows the funding from the Commonwealth, the amount that we get from financial aid, which again is the lavender box, and then this kind of cream color shows our tuition on top of that. Our tuition is very low compared to other institutions. So again, we come in at the very last. So we're doing an awful lot. We have a 96% satisfaction rate with our students and a 95% career outcome with our students. And we're the lowest funded and our tuition is extremely low. So let's talk about auxiliaries for a minute. I mentioned to you before, an auxiliary is like parking, as Res Life. It's those services that we have on campus that are not related to the education side, but they're a service that we provide for students. And the deal with the Commonwealth is you can have those services, but you have to fund them yourself. So what that means is for Residence Life, they have to pay for every building that is built. So like the new building that you see going in the village, JMU is paying for that. We're receiving no money from anywhere, no money from the Commonwealth. So we have to use the money that you guys pay to stay on campus. Those fees that you pay generate the funds that we use to actually pay for those buildings, to pay for the folks that work there, the grounds around the building, everything that has to do with Res Life. Parking is the exact same way. Everything that has to do with parking, we have to generate. So the pie chart looks a little bit different. The revenues that are on the left side of the screen show where they come from. The majority of it is from the comprehensive fee. And then the board fee, which is dining. And then non-fee revenue, which is things like gate receipts at athletic events or catering, library fees, those sorts of things. Not library fees, but yeah, those sorts of things. Then the room fee. And then you'll see that very small blue sliver is the parking revenue that comes in. So while I think sometimes students think that parking makes a ton of money, you can see here that's really not accurate at all. It's not compared to the others. If you look on the expenditure side, this looks a little different because you're going to see things on here that you don't see on the ENG side. The ENG side does not have debt because the buildings that are built for your classrooms and all of that, they are provided by the Commonwealth. But buildings and auxiliaries for buildings or parking decks, Residence Life facilities, those sorts of things, we have to pay for, so it shows up as debt in our expenditures. So the biggest one is dining, because we have one of the largest dining facility operations in the country. And then it goes to compensation, because again, we have a lot of people that are working here on campus on down. Okay, this is the budget process workflow. I am not going to go through all of this with you, but I just wanted you to kind of see that there's a whole lot that goes into the budget and trying to figure out where we are. And it starts in July. In July, we'll start working on next year's budget. But right now, we're all the way over here in the blue section in April, where we're getting ready to present these things to the board. And so that's where we are. Okay, hang with me on this one. This is a lot of information on one slide, but this is actually the meat of what happens when we're trying to put the budget together. So this middle circle, that's the budget, okay? And these are all of the things, all these other bubbles are all the things that we have to take into account when we're trying to plan the budget. So if we start with state and federal funding, that we'll start there. That's obviously a huge factor for us when we're talking about the budget. There's a certain amount of money that the Commonwealth will give us, and we depend on that. And so we have to know, what are they going to give us for the year? This year, we're also kind of wondering and worrying about the federal changes and what impact that has on our state budget. Because of the federal, some of these executive orders and layoffs and some of the things that have happened, because we live in Virginia, which is one of the more vulnerable states for if a lot of people get laid off and they can't, then Virginia doesn't make their sales numbers, then it affects the whole Commonwealth, and they don't have money that they can distribute to universities. So we're concerned about what that looks like. Enrollment is the next one. Enrollment is the lifeblood of the university. So if our enrollment is not where we hoped it would be, or if the mix is different between in-state and out-of-state, that can have a huge impact on our budget, and we watch it very closely. Compensation and benefits is huge for us. And this is one piece I want to make sure, as students, that you guys get this. There's two different ways that this is done for compensation and benefits. On the E&G side, where we're supported by the Commonwealth, they give us roughly half of the money. So like this year, there's a 3% pay increase for all full-time employees. They'll give us half of that money, and it's millions of dollars, but they expect us to find the other half. If you're talking about the auxiliaries, they don't give us any money at all. So anybody that works in any of those departments that are considered auxiliary, we have to fund all of that 100%. So, you know, just the E&G side, that budget, the increase for compensation alone is about $7.9 million on the E&G side, and we'd have to find half of that. So it's substantial. Financial assistance is just if your tuition goes up, you need to make sure that you increase your financial aid. Reengineering Madison and strategic initiatives. Reengineering Madison is a huge 10-year project that the university has embarked upon where we're having to replace our computing systems. We currently have PeopleSoft. It is at its end of life. And so we're having to replace that. And it is expensive. We're building in $3 million this year to help us to get to where we can afford to pay all of that. It's interesting with all of the inflation and everything that's happening. One of the areas that we're really seeing it is the increase in the cost of all of our computing and software and those sorts of things. The strategic initiatives are initiatives from departments. We ask all of the departments in every division to tell us what are your top things that you'd like to do. And then we cut it off at about 5 each, and then we end up just doing a few for each one because there's no way we could ever afford to do all of the strategic initiatives that, you know, we'd like to do. But those are things like, you know, a new person in disability services or more advisors or more faculty members. It's those key things that the university needs that we look at. New facilities, we're bringing the Carrier Library will come back online. That is expensive, so we have to make sure that we have money available for that. There's a new power plant, those sorts of things. The unfunded mandates. This is predominantly a program that we call VMSTEP. It's the Virginia Military Survivors Dependents Act. And it was a program that was put in place by the state several years ago, and it allows for dependents of service members who were either horribly hurt and disabled or killed. It allows for their dependents to be able to attend Virginia schools at no cost to them. It is a wonderful program, and I think everyone's heart was in the right place. However, it was not funded. And so the universities have had to, you know, we've had to absorb the cost of that. It's gone up significantly every year. This year, it's cost us $8.7 million across the fee systems. Next year, I think it'll be more like 11.5 million. So that's just, we just have to absorb that. There's no money coming from anywhere to help us with that burden. And then finally, there's just inflation. Everything is more expensive. I know everyone sees that when they're in their everyday life, and it's no different for us. Everything is more expensive. So based on those factors, all the things that we put into that, these are the ranges for tuition for next year for consideration. Now, let me say one thing here. This is a range. I am not saying we're going to increase tuition 2.5%. What I'm saying is tuition will be somewhere between 0% and 2.5%. That's what the purpose of today is to tell you the range. So it won't be more than whatever the percentages you see here for the appropriate category. So I just want to be really clear about that. But what we're proposing for a Virginia undergraduate student is a range from 0 to 2.5%. So that's 0 to $204 for the year or $102 for the semester. For a non-resident out-of-state undergraduate student, it would be 0 to 2%, or $0 to $510, or $255 per semester. Now, you may ask, why is the out-of-state percentage lower? Why is that range lower? And the reason for that is because the cost for an out-of-state student is higher. So that percentage is being applied to a much higher number. So that's why that number is lower. So if you look at graduate students in-state, it is 0 to 3%, which is $0 to $15 per credit hour. And for out-of-state, it's 0 to 2% or $0 to $25 per credit hour. So for the comp fee, all undergraduate students are required to pay the comprehensive fee. The range will be 0 to 3%, which is in dollars is $0 to $172 or $86 per semester. And for graduate students, it's 0 to 3.8, and that's $0 to $2 per credit hour. We also give the range for summer. This will be for summer of 2026. The rates for summer of 2025 have already been established. So this is for next summer. For the undergraduate, for summer is 0 to 2.4 or $0 to $10 per credit hour. For an out-of-state undergraduate, it's 0 to 2%, and that's $0 to $20 per credit hour. For a graduate, it's 0 to 3.1. which is $0 to $15 per credit hour. And then for an out-of-state graduate, the range is 0 to 2% or $0 to $23 per credit hour. And during the summer, there's a required comp fee that's $0 to $1 per credit hour, which actually ends up being 3.6%, very low amount. So then there's a few other things that I just wanted to make sure that you knew, because during this time, you'll see a lot of articles that have come out in the newspaper. Even the governor has talked about tuition and what percentages he thought that it should be. And I always want people to actually look at the dollars and not at the percentages, because I think this chart will show you percentages are not, although the percentage is the same, the dollars are not the same. Because if we raise our tuition just 1%, that's $82 for the year. But if William and Mary raises their tuition 1%, that's $188 per year. It's a huge difference in the amount of money that's generated. And if you look, these bullets, I think, sum this up very nicely. The middle one, JMU's in-state tuition is $2,160 or 21% less than the average of the 15 public four-year institutions. Our tuition is very low. And so when you talk about percentages, it's just not the same. And then this is a chart, and what I've done here is we've increased, say that we went to the 2.5, that we did the maximum that we talked about, 2.5 for in-state. And then everyone else, that's their percentage, that's their pricing for right now. So that's our new pricing against their old. And you see how low we are. And I would call your attention to the far right columns, because this is everything tuition and fees all together. And when you look at those, we're 9th in terms, and that's even if we went up compared to everybody else. And I'm sure some of them, all of them, I would think, are going to go up. We know some of them have already. But we're 9th out of 15. And then out of state, we're 8th out of 15. So when you have a 96% satisfaction rate, 95% career outcome rate, and this is the price you're paying compared to everyone else, I think our students are getting a value for attending. And then this is the takeaway, and this is kind of what I was just saying. If we look at our four-year average of in-state tuition increases, it's 2.2%, our four-year average. During the same time period, the consumer price index was 5.1. And the higher ed price index, which looks just at a basket of goods, just, kind of attributed to higher ed, is 3.8. So we're lower there as well. Like I said, our tuition is 11th lowest for in-state compared to the others. And again, we are the lowest funded institution in the Commonwealth. but I think we offer quality and affordability here. And so I appreciate your time today. And Madam Rector, I turn it back over to you for the comments.
Thank you, Tawana. I appreciate that. And thank you for your work, and finding those numbers and, putting together, the budget for us. I would now like to welcome Julian Perez. If you will step to the mic so that those online can hear your comments. And I remind you that you have 5 minutes to speak. Welcome.
Hello. So my name is Jules Perez, and I'm an undergraduate student here at James Madison University. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about JMU's strategic plan performance measures. According to JMU's strategic plan, the university has made a commitment to advancing inclusive excellence at JMU. However, in nearly every metric measured in this category, JMU has consistently failed to meet the diversity goals. This includes a staggering percentage of students from underrepresented groups in the student population, a declining number of in-state Pell recipients at JMU.
Julian, may I interrupt you just a minute? Are you getting to the tuition part?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of in-state Pell recipients at JMU and a declining percentage of undergraduate students from Virginia counties and cities in the lowest quintile of education attainment being admitted to JMU. Meanwhile, JMU continues to expand athletic programs, increase enrollment rates, and meet financial goals year after year, and increase tuition. It seems to me that JMU, though, has not made a serious investment in advancing inclusive excellence, and especially at a time when DEI programs across the country are under attack. I am questioning JMU's commitment to supporting and protecting their most vulnerable student populations. I believe that the quality of a university is not defined by a winning athletics program or even national recognition. To me, the greatest measure of success for a university is an unwavering commitment.
I'm going to interrupt you again. You got to get to the tuition part because this is what the hearing today is about, please.
To me, the greatest measure of success for a university is an unwavering commitment to academic freedom, equity, and ensuring that even its most vulnerable student populations have a chance to succeed. I wonder how JMU can justify prioritizing athletics programs and garnering national recognition when we have not been able to offer support to current and prospective students.
You didn't get there. I've given you 2 opportunities to talk about tuition. This hearing was designated as a tuition hearing, and the people online expect to hear students talk about tuition. I'm sorry. You may be seated. I'll next call on Ryan Stiles. Ryan, if you'll step to the podium, please.
Hello, I'm Ryan Stiles, I'm an undergraduate here at JMU. My question is, so I heard from the opening speech that most of our government funding is from the state, but I heard there was concerns about, given federal cuts to higher education and also the potential need of the Department of Education, how would those potentially affect tuition costs for students here?
Would you like to speak to that, Tawana?
Well, it can affect them. I mean, depending on if we got, if it was a significant pay cut or a significant funding reduction, then it could affect tuition. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it would be a bunch of factors,
Yeah.
though. I think there would be budget cuts on our, on our side. There'd be a whole lot of things that we would have to look at.
Okay, I just want to know how much I just want to get an idea of how much of that would be drawn out of programs JMU is currently investing in versus how much would be drawn out of just increased student tuition.
I can't answer that off the top of my head. I mean, we would look at everything.
All right, thank you. That's in my piece.
Thank you, Ryan. Next up is Kate Funk. Kate, would you step to the podium, please?
Hi, I'm Kate Funk. I'm a pre-service teacher here at JMU. So I really wanted to echo Ryan's funding concerns. As a concerned student, I understand that JMU receives less funding from the Commonwealth, which means that we may be slightly padded from those impacts. But unfortunately, my question was similar to Ryan's, that I just worry about what programs would be prioritized and which ones would not, considering that I am an art education student. And JMU is a liberal arts college, but sometimes it feels like certain programs get not special treatment, that feels exaggerated, but like preference. And I work a lot with like the School of Art and Design, Art History with our enrollment, and enrollment plays a big part in tuition. And I know that our architecture program is growing a lot, and I just wanted, I don't know how to put this, I apologize.
That's okay.
I worry about equal opportunity for all of the JMU students who pay tuition to have equal access to opportunities. And because we all pay tuition, I worry that some programs would be cut and some wouldn't in the event that the Department of Education or a recession or the state somehow has funding impacts, and then it impacts JMU and like the prioritization of certain schools over others. Yeah, I don't really know if that needs an answer, but thank you.
Thank you very much. We will take those, your concerns to heart when we are working, once we know the impact that we have at federal and state dollars. Next, I have Annie Rose Greenman. Annie, thank you for being here.
Thank you. My name is Annie Rose. I'm a patient advocacy major here. So I wanted to focus on sort of the accessibility within the tuition, this meeting specifically about the expenditures. I just found the information in this presentation very enlightening. It was definitely not stuff I knew before, but I want to emphasize that that was not for lack of trying. I worked very hard to find, JMU tuition information, different Google searches of that nature, and it just came up with how much tuition is. So I found a lot of results of that nature, but when I would look for more comprehensive fee breakdowns, I could find very little information. What I did find were somewhat versions of some of the charts you showed, but definitely not to the level of detail that you expressed. So I just think making that information more accessible to the general population, and especially through the email that initially invited all of us to this meeting. As you know, that email went out to the entire JMU community and only a handful of us showed up. But it contrasts with the new JMU president announcement email that had bright colors, it had a big picture, everyone received that email, everyone looked at it and immediately knew what it was for. I found the email for this meeting very hard to read, not only the small font, no use of charts in that it was long sentences, and the opportunity for public comment was put just at the very bottom. So I just found it hard to navigate and hard to participate, and I know that you all are here to serve the JMU community, especially in terms of tuition and fees, things that impact our money. I think that student involvement should be maybe a higher priority if there were ways to integrate that more. And like you said, you're going to start in July for the following year. So maybe implementing some of these moving forward so you can get more engagement, more public opinion, because it felt a little bit, the phrasing in the email I think said the JMU board will receive public comment rather than maybe invites you to give public comment. Because you guys are here to serve the community. We want representatives who reflect our values, and I know I wanted a say in where my money's going. And yeah, so I tried to be educated. I'm happy to be here, but I also know that I did a lot more digging to get here than a lot of the students will. So I just urge you to try to be more accessible. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. I appreciate your comments, and the board will work with the administration to be more informative next year when we are going through this process, and I appreciate your comments. Next, I'd like to call on Martina Peralta. Did I say that name correctly? Yeah. Thank you, Martina.
Okay, my name is Martina Peralta. I'm an undergraduate student here in education. I'm going to talk about DEI and funding. So I'm going to preface it a little bit more. So I want to talk about like the opportunities of students in which we are paying into this university and are wanting to find opportunities into education as well as to networking and occupational opportunities. Specifically, I want to talk about the DEI conference that was held last Wednesday. I was not a participant in the DEI conference, however, the majority of my professors and I have students that I know that were also participating, and they were given this opportunity through their academics, which they got through their classes that they got through JMU and the tuition they're paying to get here. And so having half of the DEI conference canceled for the presidential announcement was a bit of a slap in the face for a lot of these people.
Can I stop you right there?
Mhm.
The conference wasn't cut in half. It was just postponed to start later in the day. We did not cut any of the conference at all.
2 of the sessions were not able to happen,
But they're gonna be done during the summer.
where students who don't live in this area will not be able to attend.
Keep going. I just wanted you to know, we didn't eliminate it, but announcing a president was a timing that had to be coordinated between 2 universities in a very short time frame. And so we had to do it. And so, you know, go ahead. You just know that it was a lot of coordination and we did the best. It was not intended to slight anything happening on campus that day, but this announcing the 7th president of the university is a very big deal. And we needed to do it in coordination with our incoming president. And that was the date that worked.
Can I ask a question about that then?
Sure.
Since you mentioned it. So if it's a very important thing, why did students only get 24 hours to know beforehand and it was planned during the most popular time for students to be in classes?
It was a closely held announcement. It had to be coordinated because Dr. Schmidt had not notified his university and we had to coordinate it with his university. And that's the way rollouts of announcements like this happens. No one knew. Nobody in administration, no one, only a handful of people, the board knew. But no one else knew in advance because it was a rollout that was coordinated between the 2 universities. And that's the way rollouts happen at all universities or all corporate America. You know, if a president, a CEO of a company is going to from one company to another, there's a coordinated effort. You don't do a lot of telling everybody in advance of the announcement.
For someone who's going to govern a body of 30,000 people.
Okay, let's go back to tuition.
Okay, yeah. So with that being said, continuing on DEI, we are all students that are worried. As someone who I was on a board for a DEI organization and was paid by JMU to be on this board. We want to make sure that our students are ensured academic and occupational opportunities within this sector. And so as we give our money into JMU, how are we supposed to know that you guys are here to protect our rights and our opportunities to these occupational and academic conferences, such events with the risk? And let me get into the more tuition part, I guess.
If
With
you
that
would,
being
please.
said, if the choice of diminishing DEI here at JMU is made, how will the funding change? Will the funding be moved to somewhere else, or will the funding that we give into these organizations and these programs be removed from our tuition?
Tuition covers everything that happens at the university. And so no decisions have been made about any programs. And so as the board makes decisions, we will take the entire university and put the dollars where they need to be to meet the needs of our students.
And how will students know?
We
That you're
will
moving
announce what we do once those decisions are made.
And how will they be announced? Because as Annie Rose said, the access to how the tuition is spent is very hard to find. You have to go through many, many links within the board page.
Well, you know, we don't post that we give $12 to this and $3 to that. You know, that's not, the budget is very, very large. And the programs, we will do our very best to announce to the student body what the tuition will be after we meet on the 10th. And we will move forward with those decisions. And programs will receive what is designated in the full budget.
And then I guess my final thing is then we're talking about like the transparency of how the budgeting might change. So why isn't the budget transparent to students as they are the ones putting in the money to have this budget exist? And this budget is then benefiting us through the programs that you give us.
I will work with Tawana and the Finance and Administration Department to see if we can provide full transparency. And I understand your concern and I thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Director, can I just make a comment?
Sure.
Finance committee meetings are open or, okay, and just for the record that we have open finance committee meetings. Each time the board of visitors meet the day before, there's a finance committee. And so these are some of the questions I've heard or comments might be helpful if our student representative reminds this is an opportunity during the entire year to be involved and provide input.
Absolutely. I definitely encourage you guys to come to our finance committee meeting and our student affairs committee meeting as well, where a lot of these topics are talked about, especially now with tuition being nearby. So if you guys want to wait after, I will give you the full schedule and we can have some more conversations about that.
And then is there a public place where you can access when these meetings are and how do you attend them?
Yes, usually I post on my Instagram when the board meetings are coming up, but I usually don't include the other committee meetings. I usually just do the one Brielle and I are at, which is student affairs, but I will absolutely post those some more. And then I can also talk about a JNU email going out potentially. That's something I have to work with JNU communications on.
Not everyone has.
And
Yeah.
The Board of Visitors website also has all of those and they're publicly posted meetings.
We meet 4 times a year and I am gonna now call on Matt Gowell to come to the podium, please.
Good evening. My name is Matt Gowell, and before I begin, I implore you to let me conclude or fully speak my statement, as I assure you what I am discussing is in regards to tuition and fees. So please allow me to speak. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Matt Gowell, and I am a political science student who has been paying to attend James Madison University for the past 3 years. Every year in recent memory, the Board of Visitors has increased the cost of attendance to JMU. Despite this, you continue to fail to meet targets that you set for yourself in JMU's strategic performance measures. Year over year, you meet goals regarding number of students enrolled and total revenue, but utterly fail to achieve those that exist to support underserved students. In fact, all of the data available to the public shows that in all measurable categories, you are getting further from achieving said goals. For instance, the number of students in attendance who receive Pell Grants has consistently declined. The number of admitted students from counties in Virginia that are within the lowest quartile for educational attainment has declined, and the percentage of enrolled students who are members of underrepresented groups has not changed since 2020. You have failed our students who need your help and my tuition investment the most. Not only this, you are failing us all. The number of graduates who have a positive career outcome within 6 months of graduating has declined and continue to decline even after you set the bar lower for yourself. And the number of students who graduate within 6 years has also declined. What then are you spending my money on? Are you increasing efforts and outreach to pull in more underserved students, providing more financial assistance to those who need it the most? No. You are not investing any of this money into making any real progress toward any of the goals that you have set out for yourself. Instead, you have increased the football coach's salary until it is nearly the same as what our previous interim vice president earned as well. You have overcrowded our campus in pursuit of higher profit margins, and you have ignored all real concerns of those who pay to attend this institution. You are not spending this money effectively. You are running our public university as a private business designed to enrich the few at the top at the expense of our most vulnerable. In fact, it is at the expense of all students and faculty alike. In order to satisfy your critics, you passed JMU Policy 1121, a blatant violation of our rights to freedom of expression. I am no longer allowed to hand out flyers without approval, wear a face mask without approval, protest without approval, hang signs in windows without approval, draw with chalk on any sidewalk or structure without approval, or counter protest or interfere in any event without exception.
Matt,
Yes,
get to the tuition part, please.
I assure you, ma'am, I am. Thank you. Sorry, I lost my place. This policy does not protect me or anyone else for that matter. Instead, it decimates the quality of education in this institution that I am paying for with my tuition dollars. You have created an environment in which I am afraid to even be giving this speech. You are crushing the political consciousness of thousands of future leaders during what should be one of our most formative times of our lives. I will leave you with this. If you are going to continue to charge us more to go to school, justify it for everyone, not just for yourselves or for your investors. Despite what some may think, this is not a business. I am here to learn and engage with new ideas in legitimately challenging ways, not safe and approved ones. This is a university. It is an institution that should lift up all and fulfill the promises it makes to its students. You should be striving to support us and the programs that are funded through our tuition and be giving us new ways to engage with new perspectives, not simply making money. Do better. I implore you, earn our tuition. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, I want to thank you all for joining. I appreciate the students who are here today. I will make sure that your comments are given to the board. We have a number of our board members who are participating live stream, so some of them are actually heard today's hearing. I appreciate you being here, and we are adjourned.
Juan, are you gonna send us the slide deck that you just?
That's what he
Or
considered.
is it already in the, is it in the board meeting pack for next week?